And then if you have any questions, and of course you can stop at any time. I've got so many screens going, I might not see your question that you can type in the chat box, but I'm sure everybody will help let me know what's going on. All right, so I am Kate Kasal. Just a little bit about my background. I do have an elementary ed degree. I also have a special ed / deaf ed master's. I have a curriculum in instructional technology master's. And I also do have the state of Iowa K-8 512 teacher librarian endorsement. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about. Here's my contact information if you want to reach out after the talk or at any time and you would like to catch up or need something from me. And we will be sharing the slides, so you will have that information. Okay, just out of curiosity, does anyone have deaf patrons that they are trying to program or build a collection for? If you do, if you could just type in the chat. I'm just wondering if you're looking for something specific or if you're just curious in general. Okay, so I'm seeing yes in Atlantic. In Waterloo, you have some. And Ames, you have some, and some that are interested in learning how to better support. Okay. And let's see. Kids and deaf adults, yes. Just curious, thank you. All right. With his dad, yes, we have several. Okay. So some of this may help you and some of it may just be interesting too. So we'll see how it goes and I can answer questions as we go along. So just to do a quick overview, ASL and understand my native language is spoken English. ASL is its own language and it is not always accepted as a language or viewed as another language, although most people and schools do offer it for credit as a foreign language. Here at ISD, we have students that speak or come from families that speak Chuukese or Spanish or Mam or some of other languages. So we kind of all view it as on par. It is a language. It is a spatial language and 3D. So it can be very beneficial. This year, I am also the middle school science teacher. And I've been telling kids, we've been talking about genetics and genes and the cell structures. And I'm like, you guys are lucky because you can lay out everything in 3D and it's so much easier to understand. So there are benefits that way, even though it's sometimes hard for a hearing person to translate that. ASL does have its own structure. And I recently saw a meme on, I think it was Instagram, that talks about English and how you always have a specific order when you are talking about something. So like number, the size, the color, the descriptor, the thing. You always have like 6 huge green fuzzy monsters. You don't have green fuzzy 6 huge monsters. We always go in a certain order. And ASL is the same way. It has specific orders. It has linguistic structures and all of that. And it is not universal around the world. A lot of people think there is one sign language, and there is not. Each country typically has its own as it just naturally develops. There are similarities with some. ASL shares more similarities to French Sign Language than to British Sign Language. There are different ways of doing the ABCs. ASL uses a one-handed ABC, whereas BSL uses a two-handed ABC system. So there are major differences. It's not universal. And it is a visual language. And currently, there is no way of a systematic way of writing it. There are ways of notating ASL for research purposes, but there is no written component. ASL, the written component is written English. So being able to read a book and understand the ASL part of it, translate it, is quite an onerous task for students learning to read. So ASL and literature. When you have hearing students and children, you always try to hook into the wordplay and rhyming and just get the language fun going. But what a hearing person likes doesn't always translate to the ASL. It can look really weird and disjointed. ASL has its own system of rhyming. And just to understand again, I am not a native ASL language user. I have practiced many years. This is my 29th year here, and I have a daughter that is deaf. So I kind of learned with her long, long ago. But when I am considering adding books to the library collection and things like that, I do take into account ASL rhymes and ASL structures and how I would read a book. And for those familiar with ASL, or if you're not, ASL words all have elements, and there are 5. So you have your hand shape, you have your movement, palm orientation, and your non-manual markers, which could be facial or your mouth movements. So just to demonstrate, this is the letter F. And so this hand shape could be used to create or is used in many signs like cat, this is the sign for Fortnite now. The kids are all using Fortnite. And if you noticed, cat moves out, whereas Fortnite kind of taps. The cat is by my cheek. Fortnite is by my eye. The palm orientation, they're both that way. Whereas sometimes if I was doing finance, my palm would be up. And then there are non-manual markers. For example, a little nice sweet cat, your face would show that, whereas a fierce cat, you would show that. So these are things that I kind of look at the story and the book when I'm trying to find suitable things to add to the collection, and I'm always looking. I'm going to talk about the 15 principles of reading with a deaf child. These were developed by Gallaudet University at the Clare Center in Washington, D.C. And they did tons of videotaping of deaf parents reading to their deaf children. And they found 15 things that were very universal. And how parents connected the book to ASL for their child. There is a link on that page also, and all the pages that follow that deal with this, so you can pull up that PDF and use it too. So the first principle is to translate stories using American Sign Language. You want to focus on the concepts and use tons of finger spelling. Finger spelling is so important. Sometimes as a hearing person, we think there has to be one sign for one English word, and that is simply not true. There are ways of signing phrases that are much simpler in ASL, shorter, and then there are phrases that require lots of expansion in ASL, but the finger spelling should always be there too, not just skip or make up. And I'm going to use two books to kind of demonstrate that for you. The first one is Have You Seen My Cat, which everybody should be familiar with, and The Perfect Pumpkin Pie, which I always read around October, and the kids really like this book. So the first one, for example, when the boy asks, have you seen my cat? And it's like, oh, you see the leopard there. I would describe the leopard as having spots and it's big and it's a leopard. So you would finger spell that, even though it's not listed there. And you'll see later on that that's one of the components too. I keep losing that because I have blurred my background. So sorry about that. Let me change that on Zoom so you can see it better. Yeah, maybe. There, now it won't go in and out. Sorry for that. So again, I would finger spell about leopard. We would talk about the things in the book, finger spell, finger spell, finger spell. And as most of you know, all knowledge comes through the index finger and they have to touch everything. So that is perfectly allowed. In this book, The Perfect Pumpkin Pie, I would be, where is it? I have the wrong page. Sorry, guys. Yes. I would certainly be talking about the picture, and we'll get into that also, but this is Old Man Wilkerson. So I would describe the guy, and you would finger spell his name every time because that's what it is. I wouldn't give him a name sign. It's just not the way I read it. Okay. Deaf readers keep both languages visible. So you would keep the print there and you would be signing and on an easel, or I put it in my lap, but the kids can still see the print, they can see the picture, and I keep signing. Later on, after we've read a story a couple times, I would connect the sign or the message with the print that I'm reading. And as I stated before, always give the kids enough time to look at the pictures and then to watch the language. They can't do both at the same time. Their eyes are not independent. You can't look at the print and pictures and watch the signing and get it all fully. So allow lots of time just to look and then sign, translate. Okay. Elaborate on the text, make lots and lots of explanations. For this book, the leopard page, the kid is asking, have you seen my cat? And you may have to really just point out that the lady or this person is pointing, but it's like there's a no, a negative, a head shake, or even explicitly say, nope, go that way. For this other book, and it's hard to see, I understand. The the old man dies, kind of. And so he is buried in the pumpkin patch and it's fall. And then the next page shows the same setting, but during the winter time. So I would point out about, oh, look at the change and what happens. And no, we don't see summer, we don't see spring, and oh, there's lots of snow over here, and how might you dress differently? Just pull all those things in for the kids. Um, Going back to the other slide, when I think about it, I want to emphasize that deaf or hard of hearing students may miss a lot of background talk. And even if they have cochlear implants or hearing aids, we do see that kids can hear the speaker, and especially if they're attending because of all the facial cues, but everything out there they might not get like other hearing kids do. If you're riding in the car, you're listening to the radio, if you have the TV in the background, if you have two people at the grocery store, you're just passing by and you hear that kind of information. Deaf and hard of hearing kids may not pick those up clearly. And so really explaining about some of those concepts and tying it in really helps them. Okay, so this is the fourth principle, and it is do a storytelling to a story reading continuum. This book, the text is not that great. Whereas with this book, I might talk about, and I know the story, so I talk about, the season changed and it goes to this. And then later, like the second or third time, I'll add more of the story that's written here and not just telling it. Another one would be in the pumpkin patch, there's a ghost that's rising up and it's wafting along and it's going towards the house. So you kind of want to add those things, and first you're just telling about it, but then you focus more on connecting it to the text. And I'm sure everybody knows this. Read what the kid wants to read, the child, or whatever their interest is. You can always transition them to other things, but they want to read what they want to read, and so do I. So I get that. Okay. The sixth principle is make the implied explicit. Again, kids don't always pick up or understand those things if they're deaf or hard of hearing. And also, maybe they get the concept, but they don't have the formal language to tie into it. So, excuse me, on this one, where the boy is like, I guess it's on this one. Yes, have you seen my cat? Well, you have to like he's asking, he's asking. And then this person is like, nope, go that way. Make that explicit. And then on this other book, sixth, good thing I noted these things. I would point out that this is the ghost. What does he want? He still wants it. He's looking for that perfect pumpkin pie, and he's going to haunt the house until he gets it. So just really make it clear. Hold on. There we go. Adjust your signing to fit the story. Sometimes I'm signing on top of the book. For example, this, I'd be like asking them. The boy is asking. This person is like going this way. Sometimes if a child is sitting right beside me, I might sign on them. You know, the cat, you have to have that relationship with the student or the person to sign on them, of course, or just sign naturally, translate naturally in your normal space. And for the perfect pumpkin one, let's see this. Just to show that. So we have the grandma that's here, the little boy, and we have the old man. And I might do grandma is looking at the boy is looking at grandma. In natural space, I would do grandma and the boy, they're looking at each other just to show the relationship. Adjust your signing to fit the story. Be dramatic. I mean, it is reader's theater for kids, definitely. As I read this story, I become more frustrated. And by the end, I might be like stomping my foot. Where have you seen my cat? Where is it? On this story, I sign bigger because the print is bigger. I sign, um, I kind of show the one eye for this ghost character where he has one eye closed and there's one there. And later on, it kind of pops out and he uses it to look at the other characters. So make it dramatic. Relate the characters to real events if you can. For the cat book, I'd ask if anybody has a cat. You know, you naturally you talk about these things. Who has a cat? Have you ever looked for your cat? Where did you find your cat? Did you have to ask other people? Was your cat in the house or was it outside? All those natural questions. Um, the perfect pumpkin, I ask things about, you know, do you like pumpkin pie? What is your favorite pie? What is your favorite dessert? What do you like instead? Those kinds of things. Make it connect to their life. Use eye gaze to elicit participation. In ASL, when we are looking or signing, we're looking for feedback. And so you want to make sure you're looking at the student or the child. They typically there's a head nod there, like, yeah, I got that, or they might be copying something, or they might be telling you about the cat or whatever. But be sure to maintain that eye contact with all the kids there. Act out the story. We have often done for the Have You Seen My Cat? Then I get some iPads of the students and we're looking for my iPad and we go to different places in the library of have we seen it? Where could we go next to look and things like that. The perfect pumpkin pie, I typically do that with older students. And so we can kind of act out the story and everybody likes to be the ghost and stab the pie with the fork and stuff. So act it out. Again, that drama is key for students to understand. In ASL, often if it's a repetitive kind of sentence structure, it can get boring visually. So for Have You Seen My Cat? I would start with Have you seen my cat? Or and then I might change it to Have you seen my cat? Or I might say, Have you seen my cat? Or so basically it's like, where's the cat? Did you see the cat? Is the cat here anymore? Where'd the cat go? Kind of change it up to make it visually interesting. Um, it it helps the students hook into it. And for the perfect pumpkin pie, there's a repeated phrase about pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin pie. I must eat one before I die. And I change it up sometimes with pumpkin, pumpkin. And I'm signing round, pumpkin, orange, pie. I must eat one or I will die. And just to make it interesting for kids to watch. Okay. Of course, a positive and reinforcing environment. Encourage the kids to talk about the story, point to things, find out what they like, how it connects to them. My screen went funny. I hope yours has not. There it is. All right. Hold on. Okay. And expect the child to become literate. There are so many deaf professionals out there. There's doctors, there's lawyers, investment advisors. The internet is full of, and social media is full of people that are professional and believe the kids, everybody can read and they can succeed. Are there any questions about that so far? I'll check the chat. Um, I don't see anything. Most of it's pretty common sense, other than just connecting the signs with the print and things like that. All right. Okay, these are some of the points that I consider when I'm looking to add to our library collection. Um, Deaf, not deaf. And that first one, I just want to point out that the capital D usually indicates the culture, whereas a little lowercase d indicates this condition of not being able to hear. Sometimes hard of hearing plays into it. I try to get things that encompass deaf with the capital D and hard of hearing and cochlear because we have all those kids and they want to see themselves. I am looking for authentic voices. So deaf authors, codas, depending on the situation, which is a child of a deaf adult, a SOTA, a sibling of a deaf adult, interpreters are sometimes good. However, not every literary offering from a coda, soda, or interpreter is a valid collection edition. So do think about that. I would recommend that you check out the American Society for Deaf Children, Gallaudet, and state schools. They each have places that you can find book lists that have deaf characters. And we're going to talk about that more now. Yeah, make sure I cover all my notes there. The slides, which will be shared with you, let's see, I haven't done that yet. I have some links, and these are places that you can go to find book lists that have deaf characters, deaf authors, hard of hearing characters, characters that use assistive devices like cochlear implants or hearing aids. Open Hands Library is one. It has many branching parts to it, so they're kind of grouped. So you can check out different book or sections there. Goodreads, if any of you are on there, they of course have a section of deaf characters. Common Sense Media, which I'm sure many of you have heard, they do have a section that has a list of books and deaf characters. Okay. As far as these all go, it's not particularly an endorsement from me for these websites. These are just some that I use as a springboard. There are a few that I will recommend in just a moment, but these are some that I use. Okay. My shelf, I don't know who put this together. I'm not exactly an expert on all of those that they have there, but it is one that kind of gets me looking, and also just searching Amazon for deaf books. I can put that in there and I find a whole bunch of stuff there. There's a lot of people that are very fascinated with deafness, and they write a book, and it may be an interesting story. Does it showcase a deaf character in the best way? Not always. You'll have to check it out. Also, this last one on this page, which is Deaf Character UK. UK, of course, does stand for United Kingdom. And it has a list of books there that sometimes my students are interested in reading. So we have some of those, but understand that it may showcase BSL, which is a different language, British Sign Language, and it has a two-handed ABC, and our signs are not comparable. Students are always fascinated to see things that are not appropriate in ASL, appropriate in another language, and they're always finding those as quick as they can. So those are some places that you can go to look for books that have deaf characters. Because ASL is a visual language, often the visual interpretation of the book can be helpful for students. And let's see, I thought I grabbed one of those. Maybe not. Yes. Sometimes you will see on a book, and this one is called Bonnie and the Deaf Bake Squad. It's a lesson in confidence. And on the back, there's a QR code that links to the interpreted story. So there are several out there like that. We do interpret books here at ISD. We have requested some. They are they're on YouTube, the ISD outreach videos, and this is a link, a live link, so you can connect with that channel on YouTube and you'll see our books. For younger students, the Rocky Mountain Deaf School, they have a great channel and they have a whole bunch of signed books. So often we'll pair the book with the video for students. American Society for Deaf Children, they have many signed stories there. YouTube is just full of readings. And if you just search for such and such a book, ASL, you're not always going to get the translation that is the best. So do check out the producer of that movie. Sometimes there are a lot of enthusiastic learners who are excited to learn sign language. I was that way too, and they want to share. And sometimes they're asked to interpret a song or a book for a class, and they upload it to YouTube. That may not be the best representation of the book, and it might be a great one. You just have to check them out, and that's hard to do, I know, but let's see. Yeah. Okay. Those are good. And let's see the next page. The Rochester School of Early Childhood, they have great videos for young students, and the books are there, or you can easily find books that match the videos. Texas Outreach, this is through the Texas School for the Deaf, and this also is a live link. You can get that or to the channel. They have chapter books. I believe one of them's The Giver. I forget the star one about the Holocaust, or Number the Stars, I think, is another one on there. So they actually do chapter books, and they're signed for kids that may need the support for the text that they're reading. And then I threw in Duke the Deaf Dog just because I like Duke the Deaf Dog too. And it's my dog, Koa. And sometimes I like The Quiet and Nevermind. Deaf students are often told, never mind, or I'll tell you later. And they don't like that. They want to be included now. And there is another one in this series. It's called Farts Make Noise, which I had a 7th grader the other day go, "You can hear that?" I'm like, yeah, I can. So that author is a local one for me. She lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, and is an interpreter. So I just know that author. And let's see. Oh, before I go on, another series, and this is a 2-person series, is Charlie and the Frog. And this is kind of a reverse mainstream kind of story, in that Charlie is hearing, Frog is deaf, and it's kind of a Martha's Vineyard situation where there's a small community, there is a deaf school, everybody uses sign language except for Charlie. And so he has to learn to communicate because he's the only hearing one, or one of the few hearing people. So, all right, other ASL resources that you could showcase in a library. And I do endorse the Daily Moth. And this is by Alex Abanchuchin. I think I said it right, Abankuchen, maybe. And he's a deaf person. He takes the news of the day, translates it to ASL. Sometimes it is just very general. Sometimes it is very targeted towards deaf interests. But I've always found it to be very fair and balanced. It's not like giving one point or another, it just presents. And there are several deaf people that help provide the coverage of the news and interpretation. So I do endorse that one. That one's awesome. There is a link there also to the YouTube channel. Mel Myra is Melissa, and I forget her other name. She actually was a speaker here at ISD for graduation. Was it last year? Anyway, she does interviews with other deaf people, so showcasing deaf can. Always captioning. If it's just a regular show, having the captioning really does help. Having the ASL with the captioning, pairing that English with the ASL is great for developing reading skills also. So I would highly recommend that. I don't watch TV anymore without my captioning. I just don't have to have it as loud. And then there's also the DCMP, which is the Described Captioned Media Project. And I believe that's .org. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, dcmp.org. And I got to get back to my screen. And where did it go? Okay. And that is run through the Department of Education. And it is for deaf, visually impaired, or deaf blind. It is free for anybody that qualifies that way. It's free for teachers, and it is also free for families that have a child that is deaf, visually impaired, or deaf blind. And as it says, it has captions, it has described media. So if you want to watch a movie, there are lots of learning videos. There are also some movies, historical kind of videos and things like that. So you could connect your person to that site and they can apply for a membership that way. But it is free. Okay, let's see. What else do I have? Okay, that's basically what I have. Please, any questions that you would like to know or anything else that you were curious about?
There is a question in the chat. Sherry says, how many would be in the group that you are reading to?
Well, that does vary. We have smaller classes here at ISD, and it could be 6, it could be 8. That's my typical setting. So, but it could vary. For older kids, when I do a chapter book, they're like 8 again.
And as far as you said, engage in role play to act out the story when you're reading to children, do you use props or should we not use props? Because that could get in the way, or what do you recommend?
Oh no, props are great. Many of you know the Big Pumpkin by Erica Silverman. And so the witch, I have the hat, and then I take that off, and let's see, well, who's next? It's the ghost. I have a sheet I put on, and I sign differently because I'm the ghost and it's a big pumpkin. And then when the vampire comes, I have a cape. So off goes this and on goes the cape. And it's like, ooh, that's a big pumpkin. And yes, change it up like that. Be dramatic. And then the kids, it's fun to see them take the cape and go, big pumpkin, and copying that kind of play with signing. So using props is just fine. Also, sometimes it's hard with characters. When you're doing a chapter book, sometimes I make little cards, or I have a kind of a paper, not a paper doll, but a cardboard cutout, and I label who they are, because when you are using ASL, you set up your people in front of you, and sometimes there's 2 rows. And so I set it up that so that they know when I point to it, it's like, well, this one's talking with this one. And I do use those kinds of things. I have also set up chairs with the label of the characters, so that it's more of a understanding of there are different characters in the story. So yes.
Thank you. We have a question from Jordan Beardsley, excuse me. We recently did a stories time on shapes. Since most shapes are classifiers in ASL, how do you read books about shapes to deaf children? That's a great question.
Right. Hmm.
Or even
It
color.
is classifier use, that is true. But I guess it'd be easier to show you, and if I knew what kind of book. Well, it doesn't really matter, I guess, mouse shapes. Okay. So but the size, there might be little circles, there might be big circles, and they might be like this, or they might be little, and that kind of thing. So yes, you're using the classifier, but with the shapes, and just getting the right size in there. There is this rule, like for a pyramid, you go from the bottom up because it's bigger than I am. But if you have a smaller tent, I'm bigger than the tent, so it goes down. So there are those kind of rules involved with it. And just, I suppose I would elicit, looking around the room, what do you see? Oh, there's the clock, and it's the shape that's the same as what the mouse has. So yes, they are classifiers, but tying it probably into the environment might be helpful. I hope that kind of addresses what you were asking.
Thank you. And it looks like Jordan did use mouse shapes, it says in the chat. So
Okay.
let's see. Marianne is one of our district consultants. She is asking, for those who aren't proficient with ASL, do you have general tips for interacting, not in a story time, with deaf patrons and children? For instance, look at the talk to the child when addressing the child instead of talking to the caregiver. And this is a 2-part question. What are your recommendations about general interactions with deaf children and patrons in the library?
Yes, absolutely. You do look at the person you are conversing with, not the person that's interpreting or helping to facilitate your communication. Be patient, and for any patron, if you would happen to have a way that they can request books, be it paper and pencil, be it, a lot of times they text and show you their phone or device. Sometimes if you have I don't know if you have like a QR code that they can like request, it brings up a Google form or something that they can request. Those are some ideas. And just always try your best. Most almost all deaf people I know are very patient and they just want to be understood. And as long as somebody is trying their best, it's all good. And I'm trying to see what are general interactions and just being friendly. Just sometimes people are like, oh, they're deaf, I'm just going to ignore them. And just friendly, give them a wave. You don't necessarily have to go up to them and, share whatever, but be friendly and acknowledge that they're there. I hope that answers your question. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any recommended books that you use for story times or even for chapter book reading to older children that you recommend that are your favorites, that are your tried and true favorites?
Oh, anything with humor is a favorite with kids. I love to do Grumpy Bird by Jeremy, I believe it's Tankard or something along that line. And the bird wakes up grumpy and he meets all of his friends and then they end up following him and all of this. And really the drama in that story, the kids absolutely tie into. And whoever shows up to story time, Grumpy is usually pretty happy by the end of that story. So that's a favorite. This Charlie and Frog for older kids, if you're going to do a chapter book, that one's pretty good that way. One of the best ones, it was an oldie but goodie, was Ghosts Don't Eat Potato Chips. And for some reason, the kids picked that book. It was like so old, it's fallen apart, but they loved it. Another one was, I think it was it a Vampire in the Closet? Sensing a theme there, aren't you? Huh? Ghosts and vampires and things like that. But and I think it's all in how you read it to them. So, I mean, I do the voices and the signing. Like I said, vampires, they talk differently than the ghosts do. So that helps. Emma Every Day. Yes, I do have Emma Every Day. We do have some of those. I did not bring those up. Oh, I was going to say, and I do not have a complete collection. I keep adding to it every year as much as I can. But on the ISD website, and I might add this somewhere, the ISD library online. And if you just search deaf, we do code all of our books as deaf interest for our students. Oh, I know. I have one over here too. I'm sure some of you have seen El Defo.
Yes, love El
Yeah,
Devo. It's a
that's a
great
favorite
graphic
one.
novel. It's an
Then
excellent.
there is another one called Deaf Cinderella. This one may not be as easy to find. You'll have to look for ASL Rose. And I'll see if I can find the link for that. And I'll send it to you guys at the end. You may have to share it otherwise. But it also has the QR code, so you can just click it and watch the video. And this is written by deaf people, signed by deaf people, authors. So that one's great. What else have I been finding? There's a series, the Can I Help and the Fingerspelled Alphabet. Sometimes our students like these kind of books that have the signs in it. What I find mostly is it's the younger kids. They take it home and they can initiate conversation with their parents and talk about things like that. So older kids don't tend to borrow those as much for us here. one other one I was going to say, and whew, train gone, can't remember that one.
Well,
What?
you can email that to me. You can email the title to me too, and I can share that on Library Talk because we are almost out of time. Uh,
Okay.
Kate, do you have contact information if anyone has a question or concerned about a source or different types of things? Where can they reach you at?
Yes, let's go back to that beginning. And this will be on your slides that we're sharing.
Yes.
And so I can be reached here at the school, and there should be a better way to do that, but there it is. I am the teacher librarian, but I am also the middle school science teacher. And I also am the technology teacher for elementary. I also do a STEM class for the middle school, and I coordinate our testing. So keep trying. Ooh, and this is the wrong email. It should be iaedb.org. I'll fix that and resend you the link there, Jane. Okay.
I'm going to put that in the chat right now since I just wrote it down.
Oh, I can write it in there. It should be this. Nobody caught that in my proofreaders. So it should be that. Otherwise, there is, I think I'm linked on the ISD webpage, which is iowaschoolforthedeaf.org. And our library is on there too. You can search for that. Yeah.
Awesome. And looks like some people are saying thank you. Sherry is saying thank you. And we are saying thank you so much for all of this information. This was wonderful information that will definitely help our
Okay.
youngest patrons have who are deaf in the library. And so all the youth librarians are saying thank you. So thank you so much, Kate. We appreciate all of your help.
You're welcome. And do contact if you have any questions, and keep contacting if it goes to my spam or whatever. So I appreciate it.
And for those who are attending, yes, we will have the slides in I Will Learn. So just look for that link when the recording is available. You'll be able to review the recording and see the slides as well. My thanks to Samantha Bowers and to Kate and to everyone that joined today. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.